part 2. So basically, why they want my God-given spouse, right? So I discussed that I was talking to him, especially in the month of November, but there was this woman who showed up and she was very strong about wanting him. Um, Although he even indicated, like, when I put my hand over his hands in front of her and he nodded his head yes, like he wanted something to basically let this female back off, but she wouldn't, and he knew why I did it, and she wouldn't back off and showed herself. And then the wizards, they're very aggressive about wanting a love triangle or adultery to happen in the house of the Lord. So he did certain things after that, which I possibly discussed in part 1. Um, so basically, um, during that period of November to December, we weren't physical. But when we reconciled, more than likely either towards the end of December or into January 2017, when he would come by the house, at some point between January and like January and February, we started to like hug each other and talk. We didn't kiss. We didn't French kiss. We didn't do kiss up and rub up and feel up. Um, we just would hug and talk. And I guess people were listening. And at that time, I didn't know about wizards and wizard devices and whatever. So while I'm talking to him, more than likely there are females who are desiring him, or his ex who fornicated with him in his past. Because when I was in Hawaii in 2023, some female want to bring up, like, just comes before the hostel. Some fair-skinned female want to say, Chris was a virgin or Chris is a virgin. Never really paid attention to that. It's like, why is that relevant? But in coming back to Florida in 2023, and sometime when the wizards on the devices were like opposing the truth of God, that he is my, Christopher Delgado is my God-given spouse, and they were carrying on, I think at one point, possibly pertaining to him. And so I saw God and I asked God, like, hey, is he a virgin? Or was he a virgin? I guess upon speaking to me, which pretty much when we had the virginity talk and he questioned me on it, and I told him I never had sexual intercourse, but I did other things. Basically, I never asked him, well, did you have sexual intercourse? I never cared. And pretty much like I'm 31, 32, and then by his looks, more than likely he already done all of that stuff, right? So, and that doesn't, it's not something like a big thing to me. It's more what I focus on more is doing God's will. Is it God's will for you and I to be together? All right, let's go forward. So I sought the Lord when the wizards were bothering me within the past couple of years, and I'm led to somewhere in Ezekiel that will let me know. Oh, whoa, like God would just, whoa, did he just bring me there? Yep. Ezekiel 23:13. Then I saw that she was defiled, that they took both one way. Okay. So basically, some form of whoredom, sexual whoredom went on in his past with whoever it was, right? He may have fell in love with someone, and after walking with her for some time, his first time, or whoever it is that he developed that emotional attachment to, they must have had experiences, right? Because basically, if you date someone and after a period of time there's going to be an arousal period, which the wizards and sorcerers and adulterers wait for, especially if they want to put people in pornography um, behind their back via hidden surveillance. But um, if you start to see, hey, this person is interested in you and whatever, seek the Lord. Basically, because dating can just open the door for the adversary to come in, and your bodies, human beings are naturally made after a period of time of walking with someone they have an emotional attachment to on a marital level to copulate. That, they'll end up copulating. So that's why I would say avoid the whole dating thing. Only date your God-given spouse. Seek the Lord until you get clarity, confirmation, and assurance. Um, and if you ask somebody, or the person, to seek the Lord, be keep this in mind, that I asked someone, and um, he basically couldn't get back to me after I asked him twice. I eventually found out that he was adulterous, right? So he couldn't get back to me. He knew what he was doing was wrong. So seek the Lord yourself, right? But basically, that's pretty much dating. So dating can be the wizard's playground or the adulterer's playground. And then if you have people who watch or hear you on hidden surveillance or eavesdropping devices, and they want what you have, they have covetousness or some level of jealousy, and they're lusted to envy, basically because they're connected to some wizard that lusted to envy too. And then Satan lusted to envy too, for the things of God, right? To kill, steal, and destroy. Basically, um, they'll break through and steal, right? They'll break through and steal. Um, and so you got to be aware of these things. I hope I'm making sense. So they'll come in and cause a love triangle, or they'll come in and cause adultery. So I experienced that. Be aware of that. All right. So with this hidden surveillance thing with connected to wizardry going on and sorcery, um, and you can look into Edward Snowden to some degree, and news reports about what they do to married couples. So they'll watch certain people within their home and put them in pornography behind their back, because the pornography industry is $1 billion industry. um be aware of that. Or they'll watch you to see, hey, how can I compete against this woman to be better than her, so that I can get and keep her man. um so basically, be aware of all of that. So anyway, be aware of that. Then with this Christopher Delgado and this Simona, like, you know um after a 2-week period of me talking to him, he did ask me to come to his house. I did not go. I did not listen. Um, but more than likely, if this Simona came on the scene and she was very aggressive about him within 2016, and probably when I was talking to him in 2017, she must have had sex with him. So, or did something with him. Um, because on March 7th, he says something like, I love you, but I can't be with you. And then I found out within this year, although God was informing me about my God given spouse, Christopher Delgado, prior to this conversation, that he was in adultery or adulterous. So, anyway, he was off with this Simona for about 1 to 2 years. Okay. So, I discussed, I believe, um, they'll want him 6 feet, fair skin, probably other things that they observe, hidden surveillance, are about him that I don't know. But I know some things by the Spirit of the Lord about him. Okay. So March 3rd, we go out, 2017. And then we were walking. First, we're just supposed to just go out, get some coffee, come back in. We go out, and then my aunt and uncle were away, and it's like, well, who do should we bring with us? And definitely, I'm not calling Simona. So it's like we should be fine, kind of mentality, and we went out. So we were fine, and then there was this period where from within March 3rd, later in the night into March 4th, we're walking, cannot find the car. We could not find the car. And then in the process, we're walking. I wanted hugs from him. And it was at a time also where um, I'm waiting for my classroom materials to get it from a school that took over the school that I was working for. It basically got shut down, which was also another satanic tactic. So I realized, um, put me out of a job pretty much. And so that shut down in February 2016. So in March, that early March, I was waiting for my classroom materials. So I go out with him, get stuff off my mind, go with him. Um, Between the night of March 3rd to March 4th, we're walking, and then desires are there. And I didn't want to kiss him in public. So we got to his car. So got to the car. Once he got in there, he he pulled down the I guess pulled back the seat of the car, and we were French kissing. That was our first kiss. Um, and then once we he dropped us to my uncle's house, which they weren't in town at the time. Um, we were aroused. He wanted to basically have sex. I didn't want to, but I was aroused, and basically nothing happened. Um, so nothing happened because I didn't want to have sex before a wedding ceremony. And this is just real talk, right? This is what happens when you procrastinate having proof of marital love and you're still in this dating, and then God brings you together, right? And after a period of time, obviously, eventually, you're going to want each other in a certain way. That's how you're made. That's why I would encourage seek God, pray, be on top of things the way I was on top of things. But if you have a God-given spouse that procrastinates or is not on top of things the way you're on top of things, this is the type of stuff that's going to happen, right? So anyway, and you're waiting, and you're molded to just wait on the man, which is idolatry. So basically, with the hidden surveillance, because I didn't know about wizards' devices and hidden surveillance at that time. So we're in the room. I did not want to have sex. He respected me. So I was just going to lay down, and then, he insisted, like it's like something in him that wants to, I guess, show the measure of love that he had for me, or in a certain way, because he didn't have to do this. And way before this, I'll talk about this. Like, we had, like, let me stay on the topic. So basically, this is why they would want your husband, because this is something that the wizards show me why they want Christopher Delgado for sexual purposes, right? One, he basically like did what he did, like, to please me in a certain way. But for the Jamaicans who are listening, it's not, he didn't eat anything. He didn't have to wipe his mouth. Um, I kept my underwear shorts on, and he decided that he wanted to please me in a certain way. So he has knowledge. Um, bear with me because these wizards are against me. They're pro Simona and they're against me. Um, he has knowledge of the clitoris. So he knows what kind of tongue action or whatever action there, and wasn't scooping up or eating things down there. So these wizards, I guess, who learned about my relationships and things that people have done to me, must have noticed by my response how I got up off like the bed, like sat up while he was doing this. Pretty much I was like laying down, and then my back rolled up off the bed and I sat up, and then according to, how they saw whatever they saw, because they're telling me what they saw. I was rubbing his head softly, which that did happen during the process. And then I was calling him by his first name. And basically he kept on going even during this point, and it was a great feeling. It was a really great feeling. I've never felt like that ever in my life with any man. That's what this. Um, and so they know that when you're in God's will, you can experience pleasure to that degree because there's a level of love and respect there. And at this time, he's loving me or holding to me, but hating or despising Simone at the time, right? Right, because Matthew 6:24. And then there was this love triangle because she came on the scene and she's insisting to be with him. So during this time with me, this is how he's expressing a measure of his feelings or love towards me. But love bears all things, believe all things, hope all things, endure all things. Love never fails. So, and for him to now on March 7th, because the whole pleasing me was March 4th, 2017. So March 7th, and I'll tell you, like, there was this up and down thing going on with him. And then I learned he was off with Simona for about 1 to 2 years. So basically, and then it's like on March 6th, he kissed me in a very passionate way. He insisted on coming by. I was accepting because he said this lie, like, his mama didn't like me. And I was just accepting things. And then the next day, we were messaging each other, but he insisted on coming by. I said he didn't have to come by. So he wanted to come by. And when he came by, he was French kissing, like, wow. And he was saying, I love you repeatedly while he was doing it. And so I had to open my eyes because I'm like, is this Christopher? You know? So he can hold his feelings on reserve, like hide his real feelings from you. Because I never thought he was thinking of us on such a level or feeling like that. So he came by and expressed himself, and I opened my eyes and had to look at him, and his eyes were closed while he was doing it. And so I was just receiving it, and it was like music to my ears. It was a beautiful experience. Never experienced anything like that with any other man. So the wizards know that. So basically the wizards and sorcerers and adulterers and whoremongers on the devices or have access to this and saw this, they basically want an orgasm from him. But they are learning from me or my experience with God and seeking God that you can't really have that experience except if you're really in God's will. Because outside of God's will, it's lacking something, right? Because God is the God of pleasure and He knows what we all need. And so, when you're in His will, His Spirit is with you and He can lead and guide the man to please the woman, lead and guide the woman to please the man. God is a God of love and respect and gentleness, and He has all the knowledge of all the parts of our bodies. So He knows what to do, right? Because with other females, they may have taken off their underwear and the mouth of the men are just down there, just whatever, clear discharge. Hopefully it's clear. Whatever discharge, whatever it's coming out there, who knows what, like, residue of urine, depending if they washed themselves before, or uh, who knows, some blood, because these wizards and on the devices and what they like to do, um, with these females and devices in them, and then who knows what they're swallowing, what they're eating, right? So it's not wise to do that. um and I don't really like that, right? I had a discussion with him and God helped me to know, corrected me, that we should have, or I should have, invited God into the conversation when we were on a topic of sex positions. And this is way before all this happens, like in March 4th, on March 4th into March 7th. So, um, and, and so he knows about, like, one of the things he brought up was the 69, and I wasn't with it, and I shared with him all the reasons why I wasn't with it, but he was. So people may hear that, especially females, and they're like, yes, I want this man, especially if they hear that. So that's another reason why they may have wanted him. And then, especially because the wizards bring back all these memories and this experience, and saw my reaction, they want that same experience. So you have this level of covetousness and lusted to envy going on there, right? With them. And these are adulterers. So if they're able to see you and your spouse do things, especially if you're in the kingdom of God, and you're pleased as a woman, and the husband is pleased, or in some way, shape, or form, and these wizards and sorcerers and adulterers have access to the hidden surveillance concerning you, or the eavesdropping devices concerning you, they will want what you have and they will go after it. They'll feel very confident, especially if the victim, they have their eavesdropping devices, like access to it. So they'll be like 2 steps ahead of the woman and try to compete with the woman to be better than the woman. So basically, to, in that man's appearance, appear better than, right? So they'll feel very confident, like, hey, I can do this, and this is why. And remember, the pornography industry is $1 billion industry, and some of the material, I guess, I've never been to an adult emporium, but they have some down here in Florida. So basically, these things that you would see, like, I guess, in certain movies, they will show it too, that the when they're bored, they start to do pretend, and they dress up like a maid and he dresses up like an officer or something like that. And some of them are performing for, I guess, the hidden surveillance, the wizards, sorcerers, and whoever's on their devices. So they may want your God-given spouse for a performance, for pornography behind your back or behind his back. That's probably one of the reasons why they would want your God-given spouse, right? For pornography, right? And the pornography industry is a $1 billion industry. So these are reasons why women would want your God-given spouse. Now, when it comes to the kissing, right? So I asked God if he kissed. Um, but before I ask God, let me just say he can kiss, right? And they, I guess, some females of his past that desire him or miss him, depending on how they play with their mental health, may want him, because I learned that he knows what he's doing. And I asked God if he kissed of Simona the same way he kissed me, and I'm led to runneth, like cup runneth over. And then in James 5 verse 5, where it says, lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. And then I was led to James 5 verse 19 and read to verse 20. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he which converted the sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins. So basically, he was in sin, right? Death was in his soul. If you commit adultery, pretty much you destroy your own soul. Then they were in unity with the presence of wicked angels, because wicked angels are spirits. They can manifest in human form and they can be invisible. And so they can be in the presence of this fornication and adultery, and carrying on or having a good time because he's in fornication and adultery. Um, and then I was led to another thing, but I won't discuss it because the carnally minded people may take it out of context because they like to. So I'm not even going to bring that up. But basically, he to be led to runneth and cup runneth over, and to see that basically he's anointed to kiss. And basically my experience, he knows what to do, and I was just following. I just learned to follow him, what he was doing, and it was like it was a beautiful experience. um anyway, and the wizards heard that, basically, um I received him. I was like all in it, and like I would be lost in it or something, based on how they're listening to my thoughts. um or I was gone by the, I guess, basically, um that's what they would say, describe it. Then I saw acquainted, bear with me because this wizard's not with me. Then I saw acquainted with grief. And they have devices in here, so they're not with me. Acquainted with grief. So I asked God, what was the grief? So I was led to, he's despised and rejected. Despised, and then I saw dumb. Like, when, not dumb as in stupid, but not speaking. Um, like he healed the dumb and they begin to speak. So those were some of the things I was led to. So that let me know that there was a period of time when he was kissing Simona and she rejected him. Right? So this is when he's off with her. Okay? 1 to 2 years. And so I would, ask, was he kissing her? Whatever. This is what I'm believing. But despised and rejected. So basically, when when you lust for something, it's like what happens with many of the men, like their countenance change after they have sex with a woman, and then they hate themselves or hate the woman, right? Which is probably one of the reasons why they end up being physical or saying slut or porno hoe after. So be aware of that. Like, some men are not about fornication and they'll do it anyway, but they're not about it, and you'll see it in their countenance after. Another thing is, like, when you lust, if you lust after something, then it's like Satan glitters something before you and you believe the hype, And then after you actually had the experience, it's like there's this pop balloon or this crushing feeling, right? Because it's not what you expected or what you really want or who you want. So all that fighting and carrying on that she went on with, and then eventually what happened? She was like more than likely kissing him, but she's not really into it or didn't really like it. And then he's anointed to kiss, but to kiss his God-given spouse, right? Um, so, and when you're anointed, God gives you wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to do certain things. Like King Solomon had wisdom. King David was anointed to do certain things by the Spirit, having the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of God, right? And God with him. When you have that's the Spirit of God with you, you have all that with you. So he's anointed to be a husband, and he's anointed to kiss, and then lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. So kind of like a King Solomon, right? Not denying himself. And the devil was in it when he was with Simona, and he shared the oil with Simona. And then we found out, acquainted with grief, something must have happened between them. I don't know if they reconciled, because you know what?